A nice haircut. I know I'm not bald. I'm not wearing a cap just because I'm bald. I'm wearing a cap because I have crazy hair. I call it crazy hair because it's medium size. It's not long enough to be able to flow nicely because of gravity. I've stopped a 9 minute and 50-second video just because I noticed that my conversational or talking flow was so much better. So I was like, okay, scrap the last 9.5 minutes, 9:50, and let's do it again. And it it's interesting because this morning I stumbled upon a thing that I was doing 6 years ago. I was doing when Reels came up. I started doing, well, they came up a year before, but when they were invented, I started to do one every day with my life, what I was doing every day, and filming everything, editing them together, and that was just to get more clients for my paintings. However, it had the unintended consequence of building a social life, a social circle. People would just want to hang out or not really say it, but they wanted to be in the stories. So yeah, it was interesting. I didn't get a lot of clients out of it, but it was getting a different result. And I was wondering if I should do that again because I'm lacking a lot of social interaction. So that would be a nice thing to have once again. It's kind of it. I would have to build a system around it because there are everything that takes effort, and if you don't build a system around it, you tend to not be able to understand how to do it properly so that it doesn't feel that hard and you can stick to it. The easier it feels, the longer you can stick to it. And then I realized that some behaviors don't directly have successful outcomes. And that's very bad because we tend to stick with those things that we can measure and they can really show us that that is directly influencing our success. But those things that are not directly contributing to our success, but indirectly, and they are building something else, social equity or whatever, I don't know how it's called, but social connection, or they make people feel something about us, so that's why they buy something or whatever. They are not contributing directly, and we cannot measure it, be like, okay, just because I did this, this is what happened. You have other consequences, other successes along the way, but they don't directly apply to your finished goal. We tend to ignore those and we tend to discard them and not do them again because they do not directly affect our success. They indirectly, and the more we lose those things that indirectly bring us closer to success, the more unsuccessful we are. So, and it's very hard to notice them because you cannot measure those things. The like the result between the action and the result, there is no clear path because especially when you're doing multiple things at the same time. It's very hard to track down all the things that are necessary and unnecessary. And especially when it comes to things like um, sales or social interactions or a social life or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, it's difficult. And I've been trying to boil it down to the skill itself and how you, because the skill is timeless. All of the things that I'm doing right now, like this video, is banking on the fact that the ability to talk in front of the camera and freely express yourself without a script, without a clue about where the conversation is going, is directly tied to my success. If I develop the skill to a great level, then I am going to be able to have more success, because I think that this is a very high earning skill to be able to talk in front of the camera and be able to be articulate in front of the camera, however you want to call that. I don't think at the first hour when you wake up you should be like extremely able to talk in front of the camera, but it does seem to improve, even though it's not improving at an amazing pace. It does improve quite a bit. It's been almost 100 days since I started filming these kinds of videos. For instance, I just woke up, I made a coffee, I watched a little bit of a video that had nothing to do with this one, and then I stepped into in front of the camera. And I turned on the light, I had the microphone on and the camera, and I started speaking. I talked for 9 minutes and 50 without any blunders, well, minimum blunders. And then I undid the video and do it again because did it again because I noticed that the speech pattern that I had after 9 minutes and 50 was so much better than when I started. And I was like, okay, now we can really express ourselves in a coherent manner. I love that word. For some reason, I jumped to it. It sounds, it sounds fancy. It sounds fancy. So, yeah, banking on those skills. That's one way to just get rid of all the behaviors, because behaviors can be very, very different. If you want to get better at talking in front of the camera, you don't even need a camera. You don't even need to be in front of the camera. You can get better at talking, get better at expressing yourself. So that's the underlying skills, the underlying skill. And all the behaviors are can be different, can be put to use. The skill can be put to use in so many things. And whenever you are doing it, it doesn't matter if the consequences are delayed or you cannot track them down, because you are focusing on the skill itself, on the underlying skill, on building it up. And that is how you track the the results, because whenever you look at the skill, you're like, okay, is this because I had this skill? Is it because I can put myself out there and I can talk in front of the camera, or I can present, or I can explain, or I can teach? It's the same exact skill, talking in front of the camera, or in front of a microphone, or in front of an audience. And you can say a bit more accurately that is because of this skill, rather than that it is because of the the behavior. So skills are just smaller Lego pieces that can fit in all kinds of behaviors, and you have more control over developing those. Behaviors are just complex skills, just complex sequences of skills that you are doing in order to get to a specific result. But if that result is not really, well, you do get to a specific result. In terms of reels, you make reels. So that's the result. But the actual result is a secondary result, which is to get more clients or whatever you want to do. So you break it down and you try to understand how to do those things. That's one way to put it. You just invent new ways, new recipes to get to a result. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we have to keep in mind the fact that some things cannot be measured because they do not have a direct action reaction um, format. So that's why it's hard to keep things and understand what makes us successful. Today was an interesting day, as it is 1 week and a half since I had extreme mental fog. Like, it was debilitating. And in the last 2 hours, I fixed it. You might be saying, what kind of pill did you take? Did you take something? No. I figured out that it wasn't about the things that I needed to do. It was more about what I shouldn't do, which was sitting on the phone. It is, I think, a safe assumption to say that it's directly correlated. The fact that you feel brain fog with the amount of social media you consume. The more social media you consume, the more brain fog. At least for me, that's what it is. Every day that I consume a lot of social media, I have vast amounts of brain fog. Whenever I forget my phone at home, or I just leave it on the counter, leave it on the desk, and don't touch it for a few hours, I just clear up. It just goes away. All the mental fog. It is crazy how fast, just 1 hour and a half of no music, no podcasts, no videos, no nothing, and you feel like you have your whole brain back in in the skull. It's impossible to describe. Like, for a week and a half, I was feeling as if I was missing half of my brain. That's how debilitating it was. Half of the brain cells were gone. And now, 1 hour and a half. And I didn't even, it's just social media. No Instagram reels, no YouTube videos, no Spotify, no Netflix, no nothing that is considered social media, that has sound, that has, I can watch photos, I can go on Pinterest. I think that's one of the most productive things that I can do on the phone. And I can send messages, but not for long. Just respond if someone sends something, or send 1 to 2 texts to someone else, not go on for hours or go in for some calls. I set a timer for 2, 3 hours, and I am not allowed to touch social media in those 2, 3 hours. And my brain is as good as new in just 45 minutes to an hour. It's incredible. It is, but the way it happens is you get these moments where you would want to touch your phone. And if you don't, your brain is like, okay, what now? And you get a bit bored. And your brain is like, huh, this feels as if I'm resting. It's incredible. You just have to endure a bit of boredom and you get all your mental faculties back. It is absolutely tremendous, humongous. It is great to have the capacity to, and it's an internal state. You feel whenever you have that mental fog, you feel as if you cannot do anything. All you want to do is just sit in bed and do nothing, except even in bed we watch social media. And the moment you set a timer for or an alarm for 2 hours, and you catch yourself in these moments where you're like, I'm bored, and it just takes a few of those and your brain is as good as new. So whoever tells you that it's impossible to get off of social media addiction, or you need a whatever, just you need to, it's super hard to get off of. I feel as if it is hard for me to go back to it now, knowing what I know, knowing that this, which is social media, is directly correlated to mental fatigue and fog. So if you have a lot of mental fog, consider putting an alarm for 2, 3 hours and not going on social media at all. No TV, no music, no nothing. Just sit around like in the good old days. My beautiful singing is back. But it's just crazy. I never, like, I knew that it was impacting me quite a bit, but for a week and a half I tried to understand, why do I feel this way? It's gonna pass, whatever. And then I was like, this can't go on. It's time to do something. And I was like, I'm gonna take a cold shower. I took a cold shower. Nothing. Because I went after the cold shower, I went to the kitchen, I was watching something on my phone. Mental fog, once again. And then I was like, I'm gonna meditate because I do that every day. It didn't help. It helped a bit. I got everything helped, but for a tiny sliver, for a tiny amount, until I touched my phone once again. And then it hit me like a sack of bricks. I was like, okay, every time I touch my phone and I watch something, it just drains me back. And I saw it. And then I was like, okay, let's test it out. Let's set an alarm for 2 hours and not watch anything for 2 hours. First 30 minutes, I was spent. I was so bad. I was like sitting in bed, uh, like I needed an IV. After 30 minutes of sitting in bed, even though I sat in bed earlier for 30 minutes with my phone, I sat in bed in silence for 30 minutes. at least it felt like 30 minutes. It wasn't 30 minutes because I watched the clock and it was exactly 8 minutes, but it felt like 30 minutes. And because I set an alarm at 11 and 12, like at, yeah, 11, 12. And when I looked at the time once again, it was 11:20 when I rose out of bed. So 8 minutes felt like half an hour of just needing an IV to feel good. And then I did some things around the house. I had some tea, and then it just went away. All the brain fog just went away. I felt drained for 8 minutes. Then I did some things. I felt bored, so bored. I wanted to touch my phone. I didn't a few times. I checked it for notifications if I got a message or something. I didn't. I got some random notifications. And then I put it back. And then just it just went away as if the whole week and a half where I felt so incredibly awful that I wanted to quit the meditation challenge, that I wanted to just not do anything, to not work on anything. For a week and a half, I didn't want to do anything. And I had this extreme mental pressure, fog, whatever you want to call it. And just like that, and it went away when it was the highest, almost the highest it ever felt. Because it was clear today, it was very, very clear it was just mental fog. A few days ago, I was also feeling very sad, but today I was like feeling good about myself, and I had just a big ass mental fog. Now I don't. Turns out, even if you meditate 1 hour a day, you cannot combat the mental fog created by 2, 3, 4 hours of social media. Because, and we consume quite a bit because sometimes we can work with our headphones on or we can commute with our headphones on, so we can listen to hours and hours of things that mentally drain us quite a bit. It feels less draining to just talk in front of the camera for 11 minutes than it is to listen to 11 minutes of something. So it my brain gets more fatigued from listening to 11 minutes on my phone to something than speaking and coming up with ideas and things in front of the camera. I wish I could just, I don't know, tattoo that on my forehead and understand and never forget this because it's tremendous. Thank you for watching and see you tomorrow.